government. Well, a statement by Peter Afunanya, the SSS spokesperson, over the weekend said the planned campaign was over the suspension and investigation of former CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele. Now, he said the groups plan to gather at different points in Abuja and Lagos in the coming week, with placards depicting the service and the federal government in a bad light. Well, Afunanya said the group also planned to call for the immediate release of Mr. Emefiele during the campaign. He warned that the service will not be distracted by what he described as cheap propaganda, aimed at demotivating and distracting it from professionally executing its responsibilities. Mr. Afunanya said the arrowheads of the planned campaign were already on the watch and would be apprehended if it became necessary. He claimed that the service had granted the family of Mr. Emefiele, medical officials, and appropriate persons access to him since the day he was taken in and long before the court order was issued to that effect. Well, we do have, going into this, Cyril Abaku, VOP analyst, is staying with me this morning as we, look at this. Cyril, what do you make of this statement? Do you think it's do you see this as a vendettive move? That's a word I just coined, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it's a vindictive move?
Yeah.
Is this a vendetta
Yeah.
against Emefiele, or are there things really to question him over?
Well, one only needs to cast one's mind back to a couple of months ago when the DSS said that Mr. Emefiele was behind sponsorship of terror in the country, that he was a terrorism sponsor, which by far was a very weighty allegation to be leveled against your central bank governor, who had been in that post for nearly 10 years, but who had also become an interested party in the political process, vying for the office of president, vying for the ticket of the APC, and so on. So I think that ab initio, the crisis of the CBN governor, former suspended CBN governor, began when he meddled into politics, when he attempted to cross over from being a government technocrat, government official, to a politically exposed person. When you enter politics, Nigerians like to call politics murky, a place of murky waters. You may not come out clean. You may not come out clean. And I think he has entered. Maybe he didn't just know how deep, how far he had gone. I think he's beginning to realize that he shouldn't even have stepped a toe in there in the first place. So the DS and the Emefiele clearly have a score to settle. Let's get that off the table. The DSS and Mr. Emefiele have score to settle. The DSS had even gone to court to obtain an order, didn't they, to say this man should be detained and so on. It was a court that said this. You didn't even indicate in your plea that he was governor of the central bank. You didn't also indicate in your plea that it is the Emefiele, the governor of the CBN, and that they did not also seek Mr. President permission, given who Emefiele was, and given that the DS and Emefiele report to the president, that if they had not done at least those two, on those two grounds, the court said, no, you couldn't have come here to ask for what you're asking for. That was how that request was quashed, one. Number two is the fact that the DSS, over to the DSS now, do they have the right to make arrests? I think they do to an extent. Number two,
before we go into whether they have a right to make arrests or not, does the CBN governor enjoy any immunity?
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't. He doesn't. Now, if there were suspicion of him doing anything that is against the law, can't the DSS just go in and arrest him?
Okay, so
should he have taken him being suspended first before arrest would have been made?
I see where you're going. So it's a political process, as it were. We should have described it as the administration of criminal justice. But you see, even the DSS ought to arrest somebody conclude the investigation, and hand the person over to the police because they have no right or power to prosecute. But these days nobody does that. In fact, the DSS now has powers. You know, if you sack the EFCC chairman, where will he go? The DSS,
DSS.
not the police. If you sack the December governor, where does he go? The DSS, not the police. I think the fear of the DSS is not the beginning of political enlightenment and civilization in Nigeria. So this is the problem, right? He has been in our custody now for how long? And we are wondering why are we not able to conclude whatever it is? I mean, you already had accused him of terror. Please don't tell us it was a joke. Whether it is true or false is another matter. Let the court decide that. But you couldn't be making such very, very serious, far-reaching allegations without having any sort of, because by now the way it should have gone is that they had the evidence before they even made that claim months ago, and having picked him up within a day or two. In fact, they should have come out to indict him, because it is one thing to allege, it's another thing to indict, and yet another thing for a court to convict. The FBI, that's how they operate, which is like our own version of the DSS. The DSS, like the FBI, like the DSS. The simple thing you do is to indict. Once the FBI has indicted the person, it is as conclusive as a conviction. What is an allegation? Simply says you've been accused of committing so and so crime. All right. Maybe the accuser may not even have good evidence to make the claim, but you could just. But then an indictment means that somebody has sat back,
evidence against
investigated. They have this, what the Americans call the smoking gun with a fingerprint on it. You can't deny. That's why whenever they indict a person, what the next thing is plea bargain. You saw what happened with Hush Puppy and his brother Woodbury. You know, once they indict a person, they say, "Okay, come in for praise. I mean, just come in. See the evidence you have against you. You are done for." But if you make a deal with us, when we go to court, we will tell the judge to be lenient on you because you've collaborated with the state to help us solve even more crimes. If you fail to do that, when they go to court, they'll push for maximum sentence. They may even expand the grounds of your prosecution and begin to say what you did could have led to this, what you did could have led to that. And you know, they could bring in all kinds of things. But if you do the plea bargain, what do? It could reduce your sentence. They could even tell the judge that it should not be. The prosecutor has those powers. Yes, you could say, my lord, what we're looking for now is about anything between 5 and 7 years of sentencing instead of 30. The judge says, fine. You take his gavel and hit on the table and it is done. What we are seeing here, what they did, it has happened with Gabriel. And that's why these cases don't ever see the light of day. Gabriel, Suswan, a lot of them. You arrest somebody, even the EFC does it, arrest somebody, put the person behind bars, then start looking for evidence everywhere. Tomorrow they go to court and say, give us another 30 days extension. Give us 10 days extension. Then the public grows weary and says, look, this man, because when you go from prosecution to persecution, it's as good as wearing the public account. The public begins to say, okay, you know what? We know he didn't do well, but please leave him. What has he even done? Leave him alone. Nnamdi Kanu, IPOB leader, began to enjoy that kind of status at a point. If you remember, what's his name? Sambo Dasuki. People began to say, what is even his offense? And quite frankly speaking, to this day, sitting down here personally, I don't know what offense Dasuki committed, because right now, if he committed an offense that was so humongous as those things that they were saying, and he's not in prison, he's walking free. You know, sometimes you just can't understand what really going on. So if the CDM governor is guilty of anything, if the president suspended him for whatever reason, I think the ground of his suspension must be expedited, yes, and then we must as probe or poke into it and say, if there are grounds that can be actioned in a court of law, hand over to the police
talking about
and let him be charged.
Grounds that can be that are actionable in a court of law. What do you make of the discovery by the EFCC in his Lagos home of a 770 billion, some bags of money?
Yeah, basically, well,
found in his home.
Yeah, well,
what do
because
you make of that? Isn't that enough actionable evidence against him if it's proven that, and then the other people too that have been, fingered in it, the Sarakin Hausa of Lagos, whose wife also works for the Central Bank of Nigeria. These people are also fingered in the misappropriation of funds.
Well, I think the report basically was saying that the report I saw didn't name any official source. They were just, I don't know if it's the same one you saw, but they were saying that sources told them report. But the thing is, whatever it is that was found anywhere, until it has been taken to court and first been given a name, and like you rightly said, been proven to actually bear that name. So assuming we see that money and they go to court and say it's corruption because of X, and the judge says truly this looks like corruption, and hits and say so it was given a name and it has truly taken up that name by a court of law. If that were to happen, then it's Moses, do you remember some weeks ago, or about a little over a month ago, somebody was killed, is it shot dead, that they had gone to do a raid, and that the things they looted or they got back from the scene of the raid, they were dragging who would take what?
Yes, I remember that story.
Good. The young man was killed. To this day, I'm not aware if anything has happened. So people even coming to say they saw 70 billion. If truly they saw, if the report is true, I don't know how much they saw there. Maybe, I don't know whether there was a miscounting or anything, whatever. I don't know how much they saw there. But let's give it that they go to court. Moses, please.
I think the problem here is the fact that
yes,
antecedents of EFCC and DSS in handling cases, I think that is the major problem here. Nigerians are, not sure.
Exactly.
What to trust.
Exactly. Otherwise, a man you so egregiously accused some months ago, you now have him in your custody, and the only point we've come to is that he's in detention, and we are allowing doctors and people to see him freely. What does that mean? What is the meaning of that? If the president suspended, you ask him whether couldn't the president have simply picked him up. Well, you even saw that a judge was saying that they should have asked the president first of all to permit them to have come to him because of the political implications of of the whole thing. It's fine. But now, this is the point. You've picked up Emefiele, the president. Let me believe that the president suspended him based on advice.
Okay.
That alone is a pass of a vote of lack of confidence. But that lack of confidence at that level cannot just be incompetence. There must be something that incompetence costs, which in a manner of speaking could be termed criminal, or could be termed something. Because as governor of the CBN, what was he doing? It's not exactly like maybe went to a bar and somebody didn't upturn his teacup when he was done drinking. You can't prosecute him for that. That's a social gathering. But in the case of CBN governor, you don't call those things mistakes. You look at the books. Is that an infraction? The president suspended because I believe he believed that there were infractions. What they call it was ongoing investigations. All right. So, but he's been picked up. How much longer will he remain in that place? The next thing we saw the DSS say was that Nigerians are going to be protesting and so on. First of all, the right to protest is a right that Nigerians reserve. Nobody can take it away from them. Assuming it was true. that some persons were trying to make protest. I personally do not think that Mr. Emefiele is such a popular person in the way that
And such a loved person. That placards will be carried out onto the streets.
So this
because
is,
I mean, Nigerians are still dealing with the redesigning of the naira and the things it cost.
Exactly,
Except of course, if the DSS if the DSS is saying that some persons have been paid,
especially
to carry out a protest,
especially with the time when he came out and said he wanted to join the presidential race. He was widely criticized. We are not sure whether he wanted to go to court, whether it was really going to, until Michael Zokma went to court to say, my client wants to run for presidential candidate of the APC. I think the contention was about that he would not resign his position as CBN governor. Come on. People are smarter than to be taken in with this sort of foolery, So that was even the genesis of his, I believe, of his crisis. From there, he now went on to needlessly redesigning the naira. Even when court said go reverse the policy, he didn't reverse the policy. So if these are not grounds, my personal thing is now telling us that people are going to protest. If they protest, they have the right to protest. But for me, Emefiele does not call the figure of a man that people want to build their heads over. Now, if monies have been pushed out for people to protest in his favor, Moses, let me say this: those monies can be 2,000 naira. Okay, because even those who are likely to stake out their heads and say they want to organize protests must be well paid. Now, those monies, if the DSS is aware that such monies have been paid, assuming that they have been paid, can those channels where the monies are pushed be passed on as intelligence to the EFCC to pick up these people? Why do you always have to wait?
The thing is, their names are already out there. There are a few names out there. There are a few names out there as to people that were complicit in this. Let me see if I can get an excerpt of the story. Well, it says this is a case of forex differential fraud involving the CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele. Now, in describing the case, this report said the governor sells forex to various individuals at the official rate on paper, and then he has an understanding with the individuals that they will sell at the black market rate when the CBN credits the banks of the individuals that buy the forex. Now, when they sell, the difference will be paid into the account of Aminu Yaro on behalf of Emefiele. And this is according to a source. And, it went on to say that so far, about 70 billion naira has been traced to the account in the course of the investigation. Like you rightly said at the beginning, these investigations started after he was arrested.
So this is the point. Now, again,
if these investigations were to have started before his arrest, maybe they would have covered more grounds.
As a matter of fact, the EFCC does not require a petition to move into action.
Okay,
by law.
There's another part now. There's another part here that the wife of Aminu Yaro, who is an employee of the CBN and a signatory to the company accounts where the money is paid into, has been invited. She has also been invited by the EFCC for questioning.
No, but these are not people who are paid to organize protests across Nigeria. Our conversation was going in the direction of if people have, because I was saying that you can't pay.
No, I'm looking at grounds.
No,
grounds
of course.
sure.
There are 1 million and one of them. If the DSS accused the governor of Nigerian Central Bank of sponsoring terrorism, it is enough. It is enough. Let him, if at all, let him first go to jail on that ground. Then, while he's in prison, we'll be getting this order, say, Mr. You have a concurrent trial, please come to court tomorrow. 6 months later, the sentence, if you already had 20 years, they add another 50 to it. So, but that's not happening, which tells me that we are more interested in politicizing the process than in actually administering criminal justice. And for me, I'm neither for nor against Mr. Emefiele. What I want is for the law to take its course, for the accuser to prove, for the guilty not to walk free, for the law to take its course, for Nigeria to get better. Anything other than this, amounts to, do you know they are wasting taxpayers' money? They are writing propaganda.
Right?
They are writing propaganda, and the more you delay these things, have you seen a thief on the run before? He will do everything and anything he can to save his life, including pushing the seat into the sea. If he had to, he will do it, because he knows that when he's caught, the consequence will be unimaginable, especially if he was running from a mob. Now, Moses, the longer this matters like this are in the public domain, we just, in the end, because this story didn't even tell, according to a source, so it will be, they said, he said, she said,
yesterday. That's the troubling part.
In a couple of months, this whole matter will just die down. The question, my real question is, why, and please don't take this question lightly, why was Emefiele arrested? What has he said? What has he told the DS? What has he said? What is his confess? What has he told them? Okay? And what are they doing with what he has said? For me, that is how I summarize this whole issue concerning Emefiele. Whether they want to prosecute him or not is up to them. But why was he arrested? Why was he really picked up? And what has he said there so far? What has he said there?
Because these are things that could be actionable
and have very, very far-reaching political implications for those who understand where politics is going in this country. Why was he picked up? It feels now like somebody is being used to do something. If you picked up the man, you don't have evidence for terrorism charges. Do you really have evidence for even all the crimes that he says? Because this is a speculation. Usually in the media, when people don't want to say what it is they should be saying, journalists now write and speculate because of facts they have to draw the authorities out. It's like in the army when they say fan the enemy into, so you can take from another side. So they are fanning them and they are saying, come out. That's what they're not writing speculatively to say a source has said. Of course, this sort of stories, they are mentioning names and giving specific details. It means that they are getting inside information, okay? Information from the inside. But the fact that they cannot is because people are not willing to say until they have been permitted to say. You may say that this will pan out in another 1 week or two. It will come out. Government will sometimes it is even official people that give information out and say, right, this is information. If you can use this, so that they will use the strength of this report to now come out in a week or two and say, but in the end, where is Ibrahim Magu? He's in jail now. After all the drama that they were to hold sittings in the presidency, is Ibrahim Magu behind bars? Where is he today? So when you tell me that Emefiele, that's why I said, first of all, why was he at Nigerians have a list. If you check social media, you see they said Emefiele, EFCC, NNPC, Mele Kyari. They have a list of them
that should be arrested, right?
In fact, you know what the president did was 2 weeks ago, Emefiele. 1 week later, Bawa. This week we don't know who may follow. The question is, why are they doing?
It might be Kyari.
This week it will be Mele Kyari.
Yeah.
You never know. I can't say because I'm not a prophet and I'm not a. I have nothing against it. Like I always say, I have nothing against anybody. But the fact is that 3 weeks ago it was Emefiele. Last week it was Bawa. This week it could be. You can add anybody can add the puzzle there.
We will keep our eyes on this one and see how it pans out, and hope sincerely that it's not swept under the carpet after a while.
Exactly,
because that has been a trend for a long time. Now let's go to an issue that directly affects the common man in Nigeria. Today we hear that the federal government will resume talks on the minimum wage increase, and it's something that a lot of pundits are saying should have been done before the removal of subsidy. But here we are. Nigerians have been plunged into the unknown, and we're grouping for survival, trying to find their feet, trying to decipher what next move to take and how best to survive the times. And now government is saying, okay, now let us talk about the issues before us. Labor has made a proposal for what the minimum wage should be or what the living wage should be. Government says, okay, we will review this, we'll talk about it. Government didn't say they will approve, they will talk about it. What will come out of that talks and for how long it will be, these are questions on the table right now. What do you make of the event so far?
Personally, I don't understand why the conversation was postponed or adjourned for such a long time. This is almost 2 or 3 weeks have passed in between. Was it necessary? Couldn't they have spoken, come back, and couldn't even they have just continue talking
Instead of adjourning?
What consultations have they been doing? What who needed the time, the government or labor? So that's the first concern I am raising this morning, and I hope that they will not come today and say because of 1 or 2 reasons maybe they couldn't even meet today, that they're now meeting tomorrow or meeting on Wednesday, and thereafter postpone the meeting again after today's meeting. I think that when they meet today, they shouldn't postpone. They should just continue talking until the matter is resolved. It's a national emergency.
It is.
The president has inherited a country that was tagged poverty capital of the world. I think he should be sufficiently worried and disturbed about where that goes. This is not the kind of title that you want to retain. You want to hope that when the next tournament comes, you quickly shed that toga of defending champions. Because we are the defending champion of poverty in the world. And this subsidy movers thing is impoverishing people. You see, we now hear that people are converting cooking gas into their generators. Am I correct?
Yes.
This is dangerous. Even the kite that was flown about converting buses to CNG gas. Please, I don't know if you've seen the first one.
We hear that some companies have them already.
No, but
what I have seen with my eyes.
Because this is not a matter of companies. We are talking of people who are traveling. There's even a story that the government is about to close down the petroleum equalization fund. We should probe that fund also. We need all the money we can get. Do people have CNG in Kaduna, Kano, Zaria, Zamfara, Sokoto, and all these places? Is it in Port Harcourt? Is it only Lagos want to use it? Is it in Owerri? Is it in Ekiti? The CNG, because what we had was that 100 buses, 100 companies were about to convert, and this was how many weeks ago? Last week or 2 weeks ago. Nothing further has been said about it. If it was that easy, why didn't they do it when in the previous government, when Labour first broached the issue and said, look, the way to go could just be if we shifted ground to start using CNG, compressed natural gas, if I'm correct. So it doesn't look like what's going to come easy. You will need to power up to at least 1 million vehicles across the country. That's when.
Now, when we talk about the minimum wage thing, we know that in previous times we've had government saying, okay, if they're going to do this, that's when IPPIS and bodies like that will now start to source for ghost workers so they can expunge whoever isn't in the system, so they can justify the amounts they are paying. Now, do you foresee the possibility that Nigeria people might be thrown out of work at this time
with this fuel subsidy problem?
Do you foresee it? Because I mean, if Labour is asking, if Nigerians are asking the government to pay,
people are already losing jobs.
So you think it's going to get worse?
People are losing jobs. It has already gotten worse. We're heading for the worst. That is why I'm insisting that Labour don't go there and say the next discussion is in October. It will not be nice. Please don't say your next discussion is in January or it's in July. This matter must be taken for the emergency that it is. It is a national. People are dying because of this. when a caterer who took a contract and has cooked whatever it is that she wanted to cook and has put it in a freezer hoping to deliver the following morning, okay, and suddenly she can't buy fuel, she can't power this, she can't power that, and her investment just goes to waste. Has she not lost a job? She surely has. So our plea to them is, please don't take us for a ride. When you said, and minimum wage cannot be anything less than 100,000. I know T used to put for 200,000, which is even the reasonable thing to do. When I remember the last time Labour put for 100,000 naira, it came to 30. So Libby and I can sit and do the math and say maybe it will now come to 50,000 naira at the end of the day. Mr. Humphrey.
Now, there's another argument to this, regulating the economy before the implementation of the minimum wage. How do you think the government should regulate the economy? Should prices be pegged? Can prices be pegged? Especially when we know that a lot of individuals are the ones importing what they sell.
No, you cannot. There's price control, okay? But that is
because we know. Sorry to interrupt you. We know for sure that when the minimum wage is implemented, if and when it is approved and implemented, there is a high tendency that things will not even get cheaper. Price of foods and goods and services
there will be concurrent inflation. Yes.
Skyrocket.
Yes.
And then we'll still be struggling with using the minimal resources to still buy fuel and buy household items as well.
Consumables. Two things the president must do, and this is something he must pay attention to. The two sources that feed inflation, at least in Nigeria as far as I know it: one, transportation; two, electricity. Because let's assume that electricity is power for production, okay? From where you produce to where you supply, where you sell, where you distribute, you need transportation. So one, now there was a headline you took that said 85% of Nigerians or whatever don't have electricity, what's it called? Electricity meters, prepaid meters. What the president can do, if I was president of Moses, Nigerians won't pay for power anymore. It will be gone. There will be no power bill anymore. We'll pay it off. We'll just pay it off and tell them, don't charge anybody for power anymore. Power should be free. That is the only way you're going. If the president says that you must distribute meters whether they have paid their standing bills or not, make sure that have a task force that has real powers to make sure that every home is metered in Nigeria. These meters, because somebody is running a shop and you are bringing a bill of electricity bill, estimated bill of 200,000 naira for him every month. You are not being realistic. Okay? If you can get stable power and get it very, very cheaply or freely, that's the first place to crash. Then transportation. That was when the Jonathan government was to remove subsidy. What they put the money into was the shopping buses, transportation. If you can crash transport prices and power and electricity bills, you will see that people who are in production, people will no longer be able to have reasons to jack up prices anymore. Price of things will crash. Once that does, it means that whatever naira you have will now have good buying power. Okay? You can save, you can spend. You can save, you can spend. And we cannot become wealthy. In the short term, make sure that by December, no house is without electricity, what's it called? Meters. I don't see the rocket science in it. They've given them tax reduction or tax waivers. It didn't work. Federal government said that meters are free. It still doesn't work. Everything we've done to make sure that homes are metered does not work. This president should devise a means of making sure every home, no matter where you are in Nigeria, has a meter as far as you're in the national grid. And compulsorily, you see, this meter is like your mobile phone. It's hardware. All right? It's hardware. You should be able to buy power from any company, no matter where you're in. You can be in Lagos and buy from Benin, from Benin distribution. This colonialism that they are doing is not wise, because you live in a certain place. There's a monopoly of where you can buy power from. Thirdly, If you buy power from these people who sell it on the road, these POS operators here, I want to, or from a mobile phone, you should be able to, once you put your meter number inside, the thing should be able to enter automatically. Mm-hmm. You don't need to go to, I mean, what's the sense in it? That you go to buy, they now print for you, you now go to your house and open the meter. So
it's just at that stage. That's, but let's
so
just
take care of that. Take care of that.
Okay.
Then make sure the transport costs are beaten down. If the CNG is the solution, no problem. Can we power at least 1 million commercial vehicles every day? If we can, across the country, if we can do that, believe me, Moses, believe me, price of things will crash. So that's what the president can do in the short term. If we have the will to do it.
All right, then. I must say a very big thank you to you, Cyril Abaku, for staying with us this morning, and we do hope that that conversation goes the way that Nigerians hope it will go. That's the conversation on the minimum wage increase, and we hope whatever discussions are being held today will be, expedited on time, so Nigerians can, have something to fall back on before the month ends. It's almost the end of the month already, and salary earners are waiting to see, what it will be like, if increase will be evident in what they are taking home, or if they will have to plan with the little that they have already. Oh well, that's the conversation this morning. We'll go into the world of business and take a little break. When we come back, we'll now delve into entertainment. But let's get straight to business very, very quickly. Now, in the world of business, we have a few business stories. Following the deregulation of the downstream petroleum industry, the federal government has begun the process of closing down the Petroleum Equalization Fund. The move gathered was in line with the provisions of the Petroleum Industry Act 2021. It was reported that the meeting held in Abuja between officials and the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority and oil marketers on Wednesday deliberated on the closure of the funds. The officials and marketers discussed the reconciliation of the PEF account and plans to close it in the next 1 month. All right. Now, on Central Bank of Nigeria, the Central Bank of Nigeria has lifted the limits placed on domiciliary accounts. In a statement by the CBN on Sunday, yesterday, the new regulation allowed account holders to deposit freely and have unrestricted access to funds in accounts and make up to $10,000 withdrawals daily. The statement was titled, CBN Issues Further Guidance on Operational Changes to Foreign Exchange Market. It states ordinary domiciliary account holders shall have unfettered and unrestricted access to funds in their accounts. Also, domiciliary account holders are permitted to utilize cash deposits not exceeding $10,000 per day or its equivalent via telegraphic transfers. Now, it was reported in May 2021 that banks had started placing new limits on transfers that domiciliary account holders could make from cash lodgements. That's what we have for business today. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll have entertainment.